Hello guys and welcome back to LushVelvetCoasters. Today we're counting down the top 10 roller coasters that I've ridden. This is continuing on from our photo series over on our Instagram where we started from number 25, so make sure to head over to there for more insights after this video. Please note I've only really been riding roller coasters predominantly for around 2.5 years and my taste will probably be very different to yours. With that being said, let's move on to the rides. So coming in at number 10, we have Avalanche at Blackpool Pleasure Beach in Northern England. This Mack bobsled coaster does actually classify as a roller coaster on RCDB and sits at my number 10 due to its spectacular level of fun. I first rode this coaster last year during a Pleasure Beach trip in June with some of the American guys and was pretty impressed with the overall theming and the fact that it can easily appeal to both families and thrill seekers. This coaster first opened in 1988 and it's themed to a Swiss alpine bobsled course. Sitting in a bit of a midway area between a few different attractions, it provides great views to the rest of the park and the station really does transport you to Switzerland with the catchy, albeit repetitive music and flags and signs. The max speed is around 50 miles an hour, which is definitely impressive for such an old ride really, and it has a track length of 1,490 feet. The quick, whippy nature of the ride as you twist from left to right in tighter and tighter turns will definitely keep you on your toes, and unlike many other coasters it actually gains intensity the further into the ride that you get. For my number 9 pick, we have another contender from Blackpool Pleasure Beach, the Nickelodeon Streak. Formerly known as just Rollercoaster, this 1933 Charles Page classic sits in the Nickelodeon land area of the park. Although this old woody only reaches around 35 miles an hour, it does contain a great head chopper, an intense third drop and a couple of fun pops of floater airtime on the bunny hops towards the end of the ride. Although this old coaster only has the ability to run one train with its manual braking system, it's a lengthy one, and holds 24 riders in 12 rows of 2. It's also a comfortable train too, which helps take the edge off the shudders and jolts of such a historic ride. It also helped me personally face up to the fear of taller roller coasters and kick-started an appreciation of wooden roller coasters, hopefully preparing me for my first ride on Wicker Man later this year, although I do feel like it will be a welcome smooth ride compared to this one. If you want some intensity, definitely sit near the back and you'll be whipped around on this ride at full speed. In at number 8 we have Galactica, formerly known as Air at Alton Towers. At the time of recording this, the news was just released that the VR would be removed for the coming 2019 season for this ride, but I thought it'd be good to talk about it nonetheless. This B&M flying coaster could come a little higher, but there is a couple of things holding it back. For one, I've only ridden this with VR and obviously won't be able to do that anymore, so that's an obvious downer for me personally. But there have also been massive issues with the throughput, which is why I think Alton Towers ultimately decided to scrap the VR concept. I do think though, had they been able to install a second station so that every other train could be dispatched with VR, they might have been able to do something a little bit better with it. But with this ride obviously not being purpose built for it, it's just not doable. Some of the queue was also looking a little bit run down, but as of today they've actually fixed that a little bit. Now onto the experience. I'm obviously going to be talking about the VR experience as this is how I've done it. You entered the high spec looking station building with the message that you're about to be launched off into space. Boarding the ride vehicle, you would ascend what looked like a space station with portals and tunnels opening up, which was, along with the soundtrack, a really great way to build height while you're going uphill. You travel along a sequence of drops and turns, flying down a fly-to-lie, lie-to-fly, barrel roll and even through a sci-fi-esque portal which was kind of more for spectators to be honest, among the wonderful elements of this John Wardley classic, world's first flying coaster. One scene that really stood out to me to be honest as well was flying over a volcanic looking planet and seeing comets fly by. I think the virtual reality, at least in my experience last year, was really underrated. I have been told that the non-VR experience is a lot more thrilling, which I think is another reason why it might have come to its demise. But I am glad I got to try this a couple times and I just regret I didn't get to do it more to be honest. It really was wonderful. For my number 7, the Runaway mine train at Alton Towers confidently takes the spot. You might think I'm mad for putting a powered family coaster above my only B&M credit, but this is the first roller coaster I thoroughly enjoyed riding, and this Mack Rides classic was also birthed by the wonderful mind of John Wardley. I first rode this sometime around 2003 and cried my way around as this little timid 7-year-old, so you can imagine the shock horror of finding out it went around twice. I finally fell for this ride with a group trip in 2016 and managed some memorable re-rides during Skirfest the same year in the pitch black. It's also strangely amazing riding this in the pouring rain for some reason. Despite being built back in 1992, it's still just as lovable today, and the turn into the Katanga Canyon tunnel is definitely the highlight. It provides a great bit of ride interaction, and the pacing is just perfect for the signature wave to the River Rapids riders below, in the true polite British fashion. You also managed to pull 2.46 Gs in this part. It's definitely a good ride for young ones looking for a little bit of a step up from the classic Wacky Worm, and fun for all ages to be honest. Sitting in at number 6 is the underrated Rita at Alton Towers. I only braved this 0 to 61 mile an hour Intamin Accelerate for the first time on my 22nd birthday last year and fell in love right away. This also sits at the fastest coaster I've ridden to this day and the most forceful, racking up an insane 4.7 Gs on launch. I absolutely love the wide, heavy bank turns which look insane from ground level, and the whippy transition after the launch. The small hills also give a tiny amount of flow to airtime, which is a lot of fun. If you love looking at or filming roller coasters, it's essential to travel to this dark forest area of the park via the Sky Ride, as it gives great aerial views of the launch track. The theme is a little bit hit and miss, as this drag race-esque coaster doesn't really make sense with its creepy woods theme as well, but the voice...
Keep your head back, hold on tight, you must escape!
...tries to make sense of it, with this urge to escape the dark, creepy area. I have to admit though, it's a great way to build suspense and adrenaline before the hydraulic launch whips you away. Although it only lasts around 25 seconds, the launch really packs a punch. And if you head to it on an off-peak day in the last hour or two of park operations, you can probably bag yourselves a lot of re-rides on a basically empty train like I did last year. Would definitely recommend. It may be short, but it's also a great way to get into more thrilling coasters without worrying that you're going to be stuck on a 2.5 minute ride screaming and crying, if you don't like it. It's also mostly built for the launch element, so it's a great way to get into this type of coaster and get comfortable quickly. It's the reason I had the courage to ride the next coaster on this list, to be quite honest. And with that, Rock and Roller Coaster at Walt Disney World's Hollywood Studios sits at my number 5, and this ride is insanely fun. As you can tell, I was absolutely terrified going in for my first ride as I had no idea what to expect, but this LSM launch coaster is a brilliant contraption. After a pre-show, which gives great context to the ride, you find yourself sat on the launch track with Steve Tyler screaming, This builds an insane amount of hype, and the experience and theming of this win me over as much as the track layout itself. After the launch, heading off at an impressive 57 miles an hour, you shoot as high as 80 feet into the air in this almost pitch black show building, lit only by the impressive theming, including some near missing road signs and a replica Hollywood sign. The Sea Serpent roll is also crazy in the dark, and I found it hard to tell just how many times I went upside down during this ride. This definitely was my favourite moment of the track's layout. All with the incredible Aerosmith soundtrack blasting from 120 speakers on board. I can honestly say I wouldn't have been brave enough to ride this insane Disney coaster had I seen the layout beforehand. Despite being built in 1999, this ride has really stood the test of time, although back row rides in true Vekoma fashion are a bit of a headbanger. I would recommend a mid to sort of further back train ride, as seeing the front rows transversing the inversions, including a corkscrew in front of you, is a sight to behold, and you really do get whipped over them drops. The entrance and facade are also mad impressive and make a great photo spot. Definitely bag yourself a ride on this though, as fast passes are pretty easily available for pairs and single riders, and groups if you book a little bit ahead. Just missing the top 3 spot is Slinky Dog Dash at the same Hollywood Studios park. This Mack Rides family double launch coaster really wins for me with its overall experience and theming more than the ride itself. Starting off with a slow but fun launch straight out the station, you transverse a fun few twists and turns before reaching the highlight for me, the second launch area. The console charges up with lights blinking, sounds building, and the signature from Slinky Dog himself, before launching up and cresting a hill which leads into a section of little bunny hills which really makes the train look like a slinky. Very well imagineered indeed. Slinky Dog also talks to riders throughout the ride, which you can hear from the front couple of rows. Another winner for me is the train. Who doesn't love an adorable dog themed train to look like a nostalgic character from a brilliant 90s franchise, right? The tail even wobbles on a spring. If you're looking for nostalgia, the ride is fantastic, with views of the other characters and even Squeaky at the end. If you're looking for thrills, not so much. If you can't manage to get a fast pass, which it is actually possible guys, make sure to head straight to this ride at Rope Drop because the queues are crazy and unfortunately aren't really air conditioned considering the insane Florida weather. Sitting pretty in the top 3, we have Expedition Everest, Legend of the Forbidden Mountain, next door at Animal Kingdom. This gigantic mountain sits an insane 199.5 feet, and even though the track isn't that tall, it's still the tallest coaster I've ever been on. This custom Vekoma mine train is the most expensive coaster ever built, costing Disney around $100 million, and you can really tell. The theming is exquisitely done, with a gigantic man-made mountain built just for it, and even groundbreaking animatronic... never mind. This truly was up there as one of my bucket list coasters, with more on that soon, and I wasn't let down. The lift hill offers mind-blowing views of Epcot and the surrounding parks, and the theming is consistent throughout every moment of the ride. The Yeti imagery as well is stunning, and all I could say when first seeing the broken track element was... I'm so lucky I got to capture that first ride. After a few seconds, you fall backwards.
Wait, are we going backwards?
Into one of the most intense helixes I've ever done, all in the pitch black, which was terrifying. After some fantastic use of projection to give some context to the broken track, you plummet 80 feet down a massive drop before some rad head choppers, caves, and the famous would ride again. I miss you, Forbidden Mountain. Just missing the number 1 spot is Revenge of the Mummy at Universal Studios Orlando this time. This incredible ride blew my mind, and honestly, going in I had no idea this was even a coaster. I remember being strangely calm in the queue, expecting like a simple dark ride or simulator, and was absolutely crapping myself seeing the coaster train pull in. The constant thrills and eerie atmosphere really make this ride brilliant, including some stunning fire effects and storytelling. This also launched, no pun intended, my love for indoor roller coasters, making it my favourite in Orlando. It's also a great example of Universal creating rides that aren't just simulators, including some great drops, jump scares, and even a backwards section. Believe it or not, this was built by Premier Rides and manages some high thrills at just 44 miles an hour. It just goes to show that a combination of unique elements and spectacular theming can really make a ride uniquely fun and thrilling, and tell a story. There are moments of this ride that I enjoy myself, but I'd recommend going onto this without knowing the full layout for a better experience. Now, my number 1 is something that might shock some people, so before I tell you what it is, I'm going to mention the 3 things that steered my decision. 1. Accessibility. This ride is at a park that I can go to quite a few times a year, which means I can enjoy this ride fairly regularly without much expense or mad queuing either. 2. Innovation. This coaster utilises a really unique ride system, and I really appreciate manufacturers and designers that can offer something out of the box. It makes the ride experience really feel special to me. 3. Theming. If you've known me for a long time or seen any of my tattoos, you know I love dark and creepy things, and this coaster passes off that theme very well, in just the right way, including the anomalous side of the figures and even the name itself. If you haven't guessed already, my number 1 coaster is 13 at Alton Towers. Now, this ride isn't particularly well received from the enthusiast community, but I instantly fell in love after my first ride in 2016. So much so that I got off the ride and immediately went back in the queue. This is also the first adult-scaled ride I ever rode, and it propelled my passion for roller coasters. I can say this roller coaster alone single-handedly made me the enthusiast I am today. Now maybe skip ahead a little if you don't want any spoilers. After a dispatch from your minimal, overgrown station in the dark forest, you ascend 65 feet up into the forest landscape, which the theme of the ride ties in very well with. You then plummet, steep, 60 feet down into a plethora of twists and turns with some fabulously flowing banking before entering a second drive tyre lift hill into a show building. The lights go out and you make a small 30 centimetre drop before a pause, and you then fall vertically down a 5-metre drop, coming face to face with this mysterious hooded figure. By vertically, I do mean Tower of Terror style vertical. The track you're on is pulled downwards by this amazingly unique track system. You then launched backwards into a helix, all in the pitch black. This ride just remains creepy throughout, and you really feel as though you've been dragged into the depths of this eerie forest. A night ride on this is an absolute must, as there's basically no lighting in the forest, and you're definitely more immersed into the tale of this. This was also imagineered by the wonderful mind of John Wardley again, my favourite creative mind behind some of the best UK coasters out there. This ride also falls into the thrill/family coaster category, which seems to be my favourite, seeming I do enjoy relatively intense rides with a lot of fun and theming. So, what do you think of the roller coasters on this list? Have you ridden any of these? Let me know about your own experiences below. Remember, different people do have different tastes and opinions, so keep it respectful and civil. Also make sure to leave us a like and subscribe if you haven't already for more theme park content. Thanks so very much for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye guys!